Hi everyone, and welcome to our teaching and learning video for the week, which is looking at explicit vocabulary teaching. What we were discussing in our last teaching and learning video then was having a look at how we've got to, in all of our subject areas, identify the different vocabulary that our students need to be able to access in order to obviously succeed in their courses. Now, what I wanted to do in this video is kind of follow up on that so that we don't lose focus on the fact that this vocabulary teaching is important for us all to be doing in our lessons by giving you a couple of different techniques that we haven't used previously. So the technique I'm going to look at today are things called word maps. Now, a word map, quite simply, is a visual organiser that's going to help promote that vocabulary development for our students. And it's going to then allow students to use these word maps in order to just really get to grips with the understanding of that terminology and that word that we're introducing to them. If we think about how to actually use these word maps, then what we need to do first of all is introduce whatever word it is that we want them to obviously understand and get to grips with. And then we need to show them our chosen word map template because there's a few different options available to us here. We then need to actually teach them how to use this map. It's not just a case of hand it out and see how it goes. We need to obviously go through this, and this is a great opportunity to get the visualizers out, have one on your desk that you can go through and fill in with the students together so that they really do get to grips with it. And I would always recommend obviously selecting one particular style of word map template that works for you and then use that one consistently so the students in your class get used to that particular format without you chopping and changing between different versions. So here we've got 3 different versions of these word maps, and you can see they're all pretty straightforward. So what we've got first of all in our top left here is our simple one that's just taking us through not only some written versions that will help students get to grips with the word, but also some illustrations, so we can use pictures as well to help them really understand it. So as we can see in our top left box here, we've got our student-friendly definition, so not the one straight out of a dictionary, but something that we can obviously get them to understand properly. We then have our associations box, so what does this word associate with? What are the links to it that they would know? An illustration that they can draw to help them remember. We then have our synonyms and our antonyms that they could potentially use as alternatives here, and then other forms of the word before our little conclusion at the bottom. On the bottom version down here, we've got a more simplistic version where we put our keyword in that middle box, and then what we've got are 4 kind of key sections around it. So the definition in the student's own words in the top left, synonyms in the top right, picture in the bottom right, and then using it meaningfully in a sentence in the bottom left. So obviously if we're thinking about quite a quick version, then this one at the bottom is a really simple way to get students to do it. They don't even need it printed. They can just quickly sketch that out in their own books with the keyword in the middle, divide it up into that little grid, and then they can put in those key aspects. The last one on the right hand side there, again, very similar in what we're seeing. We've got our synonyms, we've got our antonyms in there, other forms of the word. We've got obviously the definition written in, a particular phrase or sentence from the text that it comes from. So that would be very useful if it's in a particular quotation, for example, and using it in their own sentence as well as their own little picture at the bottom. So all of these have got their own merits, and you'll have one that you like more than others, for example. And at the end of the day, just getting students to use these to really get to grips with that key vocab to understand it is what we need to be doing. The specific way you do that is kind of personal choice. So do find some of these, get used to using them with your students and train them up into obviously getting to grips with that key vocabulary in your lessons.